Okay, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to our World Affairs Fridays. Today, our guest speaker is Sahih Rosenjay, and he is going to talk to us about being a Muslim in America. He has his own PowerPoint and introduction, so I'm going to turn it over to you. And Sahih, you should have controls. You should be able to
I see.
share as you like. Thank
Share
you.
screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So hopefully you guys can still see my face before I start sharing the screen. I just want to say good morning to everyone. Hopefully everyone's in a good and sharing mood. So I'm going to go ahead and start this presentation. All right. Hopefully you can see the proper screen.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know if I should maximize or I should probably maximize. Okay. So am I in presentation mode?
You are.
Able to
yep.
see?
Everything looks good.
So my name is Sahih Rosenjay. Again, the presentation is being a Muslim in America. So just kind of a few things about myself. I was born and raised in Chicago, so up north, up yonder, where everyone steals the tax money, right? Born to Nigerian parents from the Yoruba tribe, so my parents are from Africa originally. I tend to call myself a Nigerian and an American because I was raised with the culture of the Yoruba tribe. I have a bachelor's in electrical engineering. I went to University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. And then I moved to Peoria in 2015, and clearly it was Caterpillar who drugged me here, right? So currently I work as a system engineer. I actually work with Mrs. Wex. I have to call you Mrs. Wex. My mom will kill me. I'm sorry. I work with her husband, Sean. He's a boss of mine, I would say. And I'm married. I have 5 children. I have 1 girl, 4 boys, and 2 of those boys are twins. They're 11-month-old twins right now. So they'll be turning 1 in October. Okay. So with the presentation itself, I was really honest with Mrs. Weck today, a couple of weeks ago when she asked me to do this, is that being a Muslim in America is not something I can really get into real deep without explaining what being a Muslim is. So this presentation is going to really dive into what Islam is, who are Muslims, what we believe, and I don't want you to confuse it with being like just being a sermon or anything. This is free for you to ask as many questions as you want. If you show similarities between the religion maybe you practice, this is that opportunity for you to do that. So I'm going to get into that, and then after that, I guess there'll be time for questions. I'm going to try to do this in 30 minutes and then give time for questions. And then maybe also cover some specific things that maybe I've gone through or I've seen other people go through. And then I'll kind of give you other avenues to be able to ask questions outside of this forum. Okay. All right. So again, today we'll discuss what is Islam, who is Allah, what does Islam teach, where do these teachings come from, the authentication of the Quran, the articles of faith and pillars of Islam, and fundamental misconceptions. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to leave that as a slide to kind of open up for questions. So there'll be kind of a list of misconceptions that I would say are pretty prominent with Muslims nowadays. And then I'll give you the opportunity to ask anything from that list. Now, when we do get to the questions, I will say, from an Islamic standpoint, I am a layman. So I'm not a person who does day in and day out studying of Islam. And there are people who do that. They're called scholars, or they're called sheikhs in Arabic. It's a term of respect. Also used for elderly people as well. And those individuals have been studying, just like I've been studying electrical engineering, they've been studying Islam for years. So when it comes to questions that may be too above my pay grade, I will say I don't know. And that's also a beauty of me being a Muslim. So what is Islam? And I don't know I was wondering if I should allow people to ask questions as I go, but maybe I'll just go through a presentation and you guys can kind of jot your questions as we go. So what is Islam? There's this word Islam itself. Is it a religion? Is it a way of life? What is it, right? So on the left, we have this really in-depth definition, right? It describes the verb itself. The root word of Islam comes from a verb called aslama, right? It means he who resigned or submits himself, or she who resigns or submits himself, okay? In this case, we're submitting ourselves to God. I'm not going to go too much into the rest of this. I just have this here so you can know the origin of the word itself. But kind of the breakdown of this statement is that Islam means willful submission and surrender to the will of Allah, Allah being God, by believing in the oneness of God. So basically, we don't take any partners with Allah. There's no additional. There are clearly many religions out there that have, multiple gods and whatnot. We believe that Allah is the only God, okay? So there's no God, anyone, or anything worthy of worship except Allah. And then we have to obey his orders and commands, okay? Yeah, this is the core belief of a Muslim, majority of Muslims. Now, there are some that deviate and try to, do things on their own. And unfortunately, they are not practicing Islam. They may be Muslims by name, but not by action. So just to continue, again, Islam is not a new religion. From a perspective of Muslim, Islam has been there since day one, so since Adam. So it may have not been called Islam, but the definition of Islam was what was practiced, okay? So basically, Adam submitted his will to God, right? Noah submitted his will to God, Moses, all the way Jesus, all the way to Muhammad, which is what we state as the last prophet of Islam, okay? It is the same truth that Allah has revealed through all the prophets, like I stated. And Islam is both a religion and a way of life. So when I add in this complete way of life, I mean, I can basically any facet of our life, from how to address one's marital partner, to how to take care of your kids, how to properly clean oneself. Islam covers. It is an in-depth religion when it comes, and a way of life when it comes to depicting each and every aspect of life, from inheritance to education. Islam covers. So who is Allah? So Allah is a singular, non-plural word, or a name in this case. So basically it's the oneness of Allah. So have there been within, so this is a quote here, have there been within the heavens and earth, the gods beside Allah, they both would have been ruined. So exalted is Allah, Lord of the throne above what they describe. So this is from the Quran itself. This is stating that oneness of Allah, okay? And then Allah is also genderless. We may use the term he in English, but we don't regard him as a male. He's not a male or a female, okay? There is the term in English as like the royal we, royal they, royal he, royal she. This is the term that we use. This is the way we use it. And then Allah is an old word. And the kind of the proof of that is when you look at the Bible or the Torah, in Genesis 1:1 of this Arabic Torah, they use the word Allah. They don't use anything else. They don't use another word. This is a term that's used across the board. And it has many attached words from other languages, like Elohim, Jehovah. These are all the same word. So with Allah, there's also attributes, so names and attributes. For example, Allah is also known as Al-Ahad, meaning the one. Al-Samad, the omnipotent, and this should be Ar-Rahman, the merciful. I myself, I have my 4 boys are all named using a derivative of Allah's name. So for all 4 of my children, they have Abdul as the beginning part of their first name, and then they have one of Allah's attributes attached to it. So my firstborn is named Abdul Rahim, second one is Abdul Latif, and then my twins are Abdul Mu'iz and Abdul Mu'id. And they all have wonderful meanings. In fact, the last 3 children, my wife was the one who picked out those names. Ar-Rahim means the compassionate, like the most loved. Latif means subtle and gracious. Mu'iz means the honored. It also means the strengthener, like someone who's strengthening you. And then Mu'id is the restorer, the renewer, the reclaimer. So these are attributes of Allah that we all as Muslims believe in, and believe that He's perfect with each and every one of these, even in the good and bad times, or what I would say challenging times. So kind of cover what are the basics of being a Muslim, right? What are the instructions that Allah gives us to be a Muslim? So in this, there was a discussion between Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and an angel, and that angel was Jibril ﷺ. These 2 had a discussion describing what are the basics for a Muslim. And in the rest of this presentation, I'm going to go over I'm going to break down that discussion they had between each other. All right. So the first part is basically the 5 pillars of Islam. So worship, ibadah. And then the next part are I should say 6 articles of faith, but sometimes they're called 6 pillars of faith. And we'll kind of break those down. So before we get into that, I just want to let you know where the source, where am I getting all this information? And I have to go a little bit faster because I'm at 14 minutes. So the first source is the Quran. Okay, this is the word of Allah, right? This is directly from the source, right? And there's the ahadith. These are hadith, a collection of hadith. There's a large library of hadith of the words, actions, approvals, and attributes of Prophet Muhammad. So there are certain things he said, certain actions he took, things he approved, and attributes of his conduct, his character, that we also must take into account when we're trying to follow the command of Allah. All right, and then there's the athar. These are the acts of the disciples that followed Prophet Muhammad. We call those disciples Sahaba. These individuals, both men and women, both mothers, fathers, husbands, wives, children, elderly, etc., all recorded these hadith during the time of the Prophet and even afterwards, and also give us an understanding of what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ meant by certain words, actions, approvals, and attributes. So this is also very important. And then lastly, there's the inspired word of God. So there are individuals who go through these first 3 sources of Islam and kind of get inspiration on what these texts mean. Now, these are not Islamic sources, but they are done by scholars that study year in and year out. They pretty much wake up and study and go to sleep study. So from the Quran, the first word that was given to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is Iqra, meaning to read. So unfortunately, both Muslims and non-Muslims do not use this method when they are trying to attain knowledge or trying to understand someone. We were just talking earlier. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he was talking about Richard Nixon, right? And he stated that an individual who was kind of distraught about something, I guess a treaty of some sort, and the gentleman here asked him, "Did you read the treaty? Did you even have an understanding of what you're angry about?" unfortunately, that person didn't read the treaty probably, you know, just like, for example, people do not read about Islam or read about the individuals they don't understand. And also with reading, you have to have a teacher. You can't just go to an individual that has no background, is not a Muslim, or doesn't have a background, right? If of what you're trying to ask a question about. And unfortunately, this is where a lot of the issues when being a Muslim in America or even across the world arise. And this can also happen between Muslims themselves. They can argue about things and neither one of them have read the Quran or any type of teaching from a teacher. So that's interesting. So authentication. So one thing is that about the Quran is that the translations are not authentic. So when we talk about the Quran, we're talking about the Quran in Arabic. There's only one Quran and it's in Arabic. Now there's translations of the Quran that try to do a good justice of trying to make someone understand. But when someone wants to get in depth into the understanding of something, they have to learn the language. For example, if you're a computer programmer, right? To understand how a program works, you're going to have to learn the language, right? It's going to be a requirement. And that's probably for maybe your work, or maybe you're just love coding, right? Now, if we do that for our work and we do that for our maybe enjoyment, we definitely need to do that to understand our way of life and how things should work. So one of the kind of major requirements for most Muslims is to learn Arabic and learn at least the general form to be able to understand what is being said. And most people, when it comes at least to the basics of Islam, can at least decipher certain things in Arabic. There's also 12 distinct linguistic techniques. This is kind of detailed stuff. There's also scientific and historical miracles within the Quran. And then the one thing is that the Quran itself is not necessarily, I mean, it's definitely written form, right? But its initial form was memorized. The Quran itself, like the word itself, means to recite or to often recite. For example, if any of you have been into a mosque before and heard the leader, which is the imam, recite the Quran while praying out loud, you'll realize if he were to make a mistake during the recitation, probably about 10 to 20 individuals, brothers and sisters, will try to correct him immediately. I've seen it many times. You can go on YouTube, see many times of people being corrected, and they will be corrected fairly quickly. For example, my younger brother, he sometimes leads, and my daughter, who's also memorizing the Quran, will correct him. And my daughter is 7 or 8, she just turned 8, and my brother is 14. So that tells you the importance of the memorization. So that's the fundamental of the Quran. It is supposed to be memorized. And in this way, the security of the authenticity, the authenticity is secured with this method. For example, if you do the Pledge of Allegiance, right, we all memorize the Pledge of Allegiance. What's missing in here, right? Right? We're missing under God, right? Yep. Right? So with this type of memorization, and this is just English, right? This is the same way we do this with the Quran. Like, we will not miss a beat right here if we were to do the Pledge of Allegiance and someone were to miss under God, right? So let's get into the 5 pillars of Islam. I have 10 minutes. Let's see if I can get through this. So the first one is to declare the Shahada, right? Or declaration of faith. In Arabic, it is stated as Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan wa abduhu wa rasuluh. Now, I know a lot of people are like, what is this? So I put it in English for us. So it means, I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship except Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the prophet of Allah. So with the Shahada, there is two portions of it. There's a negation and an affirmation. We're negating any other God that is worthy of worship, and we're affirming that worship is only for Allah. And then we're also affirming that the teachings, the actions, the words from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is from Allah as well, and that He's kind of giving us that message of Allah is the only God. Now, I don't want anyone to get confused. We do not pray to Muhammad. Muhammad is a person, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's just one of the greatest. He's the greatest person in the views of all Muslims. So again, the purpose of life is to worship Allah from a Muslim's perspective, and this is done by following the messenger of Allah. And that act of worship is only accepted if it's done for Allah alone and by following the messenger of Allah alone. So, for example, I know a lot of people will be surprised that, of course, we have worship like prayer, but there's also worship as in everyday life. For example, treating your wife with respect is a worship of Allah. Going to work, getting money, and coming back and using it on your family is a worship of Allah. There's many, many aspects. Being nice to your parents, being nice to your siblings, being nice to your children. These are all worships of Allah because Allah commands you to do it. And if your intention is to do it for the sake of pleasing Allah and doing it in the same way as Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did, then you are doing an act of worship. And this is within the Quran, the Hadith. There's many ways, many avenues that I can prove to you that this is a part of Islam. The second one is Salah itself. And I'm going to speed up here because, again, we have 6 minutes. I was trying to give us some time to have questions. We have 5 daily prayers. These are mandatory prayers, but there's additional prayers that we can voluntarily do. And then we pray 5 times, one at dawn, 1 at noon, 1 in the afternoon, 1 at sunset, and 1 at night. And again, this is a direct link to Allah, a daily link at 5 different times of the day. And this is the main form of worship. So what is the act I must do before I pray? So there's a cleansing. So they call it wudu. There's a cleansing of before you actually perform your prayer. So there's zakah. Okay, there's another pillar, third pillar of Islam. So zakah is charity. So there's a mandatory 2.5% of charity that has to come from an individual who has had a certain amount of wealth over a certain amount of time. Now, if you do not reach this certain amount of wealth, there's a minimum, and I can't remember it offhand, but it's really, really small. If you do not reach this amount of wealth, then you are not obligated to pray it. And you have to have this specific wealth for 1 complete calendar year. So for example, if you had $1,000, right, and you held it for 1 year, you would owe 2.5% on that. But let's say you had $1,000 one day, and then the next day you spent $500 of it, and let's say the actual minimum you have to have was $1,000, then you don't owe anything. You're too poor to pay charity. But in being poor, you are supposed to receive that charity. So that 2.5% has to go to the poor. It cannot go to anything else. So the last one is fasting. No, I'm sorry. The fourth one is fasting. What is fasting? Basically, during the month of Ramadan, we abstain from food and drink between the dawn prayer and the sunset prayer. We also abstain from other, of course, marital acts, I will say. We also abstain from, of course, we're kind of being on our best behavior, kind of like if you were to do in Lent, but this is even way more challenging. And then the appropriate age, I would say, a person will start is maturity. And of course, each person's maturity is a little bit different. You know, some people get mature at 10, and some people get mature at 16. It all depends on them. And at the end of Ramadan, we kind of celebrate. We have what they call Eid al-Fitr. It's the ending celebration. It's one of two celebrations that Muslims have. All right. And then the last pillar is to perform the pilgrimage. This is a pilgrimage to Mecca. This is this black box that everybody wonders what's in here. To be honest, there's nothing in here, right? There's just it's just a space. But this is one of the most respected spaces within all Abrahamic religions: Jewish, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And it's obligatory for every Muslim to do this. Only, and I say only, if you can afford it. If you can't, you don't have to do this. This is not a requirement. So if you don't have enough money, or if you're not physically able, you do not have to do this. So this is an optional pillar, but if you do have the money, you must do it. It's obligatory at that point. All right. Now, I have 2 minutes left, and I want to go through the last thing, which is the 6 pillars of faith, and then I'm going to make you do something. We're going to do something together. So the 6 pillars of faith, real quickly, are to believe in one God. Again, that goes back to the Shahada and testifying that there's only one God to worship. Believe in angels. So a lot of the angels, if you're a Christian or a Jew or learned about Christianity and Judaism, a lot of the angels that we talk about, the 4 main ones are Gabriel, and there's 3 others. One is the angel of death. And these 4 are probably prominent in all of our books, but we also believe in these. We also believe in the books that are sent by God to a select prophets. We believe in the Suhuf, the Torah, which we know as the Torah, the Zabur, which is Psalms from David, the Injil, which is the Gospels from Jesus, and the Quran, which is the last book from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, with each one of these prophets, we revere them just like anyone else reveres them. We believe that they're the greatest human beings to walk on the face of the earth. Yeah, so basically that's it. And then beliefs in the prophets. We believe there's hundreds of thousands of prophets that have came that were sent by God, but there are 25 of them that were mentioned in the Quran themselves. Some of them, of course, were mentioned in the older books, but unfortunately for us, at least from a Muslim standpoint, these 4 books that we talk about are not in existence as they originally were revealed to these prophets. That's our understanding as Muslims. And hopefully no one takes offense to that. So then the 5th one is the belief in the Day of Judgment. So we believe in divine decree. We also believe that humans have free will. So there's a balance there. Basically, we believe that Allah has written everything down. He knows everything that's going to happen. But it is up to us to choose which path we want to go. So it's not to say that Allah is, for example, I was born and I'm going to do what I'm going to do no matter what. I have a choice. I have a choice to go one way or the other. It's just that Allah already knows where I'm going. I'm sorry. I mixed it up. Day of Judgment. So we believe in hell and heaven, and then I already explained divine decree. I just mixed them up. I apologize. So we believe if you do good, you follow Allah and the Prophet Muhammad, you go to heaven. And if you don't, Allah is very merciful. So He will try to wipe away as many sins and make them disappear as much as possible. But we do believe if you get to a point where there is no return, you will be going to hell for some time. Sometimes it's temporary, sometimes it's for eternity. So those are the pillars of Iman. So we're at 30 minutes, and I want to kind of stop here. I think that's where this is what kind of told me that I had. But I want everyone, if you have an iPhone, how many people here have an iPhone? I kind of want to open it up for questions now. So let's stop sharing. So how many people have an iPhone? Okay, This is what I want you to do. I want you to say, hey Siri, all right? All right? And the next thing I want you to ask it is, what is the scariest word in the world? And whoever gets it first, please unmute yourself and tell me what it says. So what is the scariest word in the world?
Aloha Akbar.
Allahu Akbar. So when we talk about being a Muslim in America or just across the world, now this is the world now, everyone has iPhones. When someone thinks that the scariest word in the world is Allahu Akbar, and the meaning of Allahu Akbar is to say that God is great. And I believe every single religion, you know, whether it's Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, believes that Allah is great, then there is a lack of understanding of each other. And with that is the problems that we have as Muslims, or even as just people, as human beings, from a day-to-day manner of understanding each other, really trying to learn from one another. There's a saying in the Quran that Allah created different cultures, different people to learn from one another, not to hate each other, not to kill each other, not to call each other names. But unfortunately, Muslims and non-Muslims have chosen to do this. And it's made it difficult to be not only a Muslim, but a human being on the face of this earth. So I'll stop there. I do have a couple more slides afterwards to kind of just lead us to discussion. I'll open it up for questions. Again, this was not to be a lecture of I want everyone to be a Muslim, but I don't want to seem preachy, if that makes sense. So I'll open up for questions. This slide here may kind of jog your memory of maybe questions you have. These are kind of the top 10 misconceptions about Islam. This kind of probably gets updated pretty often, so you could feel free to maybe reference any one of these or any questions you may have on the slides I had from before.
I've got a couple of questions as people are reading those. I will ask you to stop sliding just so I can see everybody's faces.
Okay, sorry about
that. But I had a couple of folks email me questions early.
Okay, great.
Well, one from today is, what is your daughter's name? Does she get a name that's also related to?
My daughter's name is wonderful. It's actually, her name is Khalila. Now, Khalila is a name that is originated from, it means bosom friend. It means very close friend. And it's actually a name that Allah used to call Ibrahim, Prophet Abraham, or sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He called Ibrahim his bosom friend, very close friend, right? I named her after that because it just has wonderful meaning. So I named her after a prophet. So the way that Allah would have described Prophet Ibrahim, he would have called him Khalilullah, meaning bosom friend of Allah. So that's where it comes from. And also you probably have heard an indirect term of it, Kal-El. Who's heard of Kal-El? Kal-El is Superman's name, right?
Yeah. This
is the derivative of that. It's Khalil. But the female version is Khalila. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, people are texting in quick questions. Why can't we get Apple to change the offensive answers on Siri?
I mean, I don't control Apple, but what we do control is our minds, what we read, what we comprehend. So it's better for us to really look for true sources, people who have done extensive knowledge, research, and like I said, if something breaks on your body, you're not going to go to a civil engineer to fix it, right? You're going to go to a doctor, right? Unless that civil engineer happens to be a medical doctor, which there are a lot of civil engineers that happen to be medical doctors. And you wouldn't wouldn't go to a medical doctor to fix a bridge. You just won't. Again, unless that medical doctor is a civil engineer. So it's one thing. I see someone raising their hand, so I don't know if you want to continue with the.
No, I think that's interesting though. So can you give, I did have another question that came in from email early. How many branches of Islam are there?
So from a standpoint of what is the true Islam, there's only one branch, okay? I know a lot of people will talk about the different, like Sunni, Shia, all these other schisms, but there's only one Islam. So now from a standpoint of individuals and their cultures, or maybe the scholars they may follow, or the simple beliefs they have, yes, there are different, schisms, and all of them are trying their best to follow Islam. Wallahi, and I'm swearing by Allah, they're all trying their best to follow Islam. Now, are there differences of opinion? Yes. Can some of those differences of opinion get heated? Yes. Just like any other human being. But when they all get into the masjid, which is the mosque where we pray, we all pray the same way. Now there are a few maybe deviants, but I mean that's going to be true in anything, right? For example, Tesla and what's it called? And who did I'm forgetting right now.
Edison?
Huh?
Tesla and Edison?
Yeah, Edison, thank you. Oh. Yeah, Tesla and Edison, right? They had two ways of delivering power to the masses, right? And they fought about it. They had differences, right? And at some point, one of them realized they were wrong, right? And said, the other way, let's go AC instead of DC, right? So this is the same thing within Islam. So people have different opinion and have to respect it, because in Islam, everything is based on intention. Of course, you read a rule, you try to interpret that based on who your scholar is, who you're teaching and learning from. But at the end of the day, you try to do it to the best of your ability. And Allah knows best what your ability is. And He'll judge you with that. Allah is just. Justice is one of the number one things within Islam. So with there being differences and whatnot, that's not a big deal.
Kathleen, did you have a question?
I think Dewey had a question too. I saw him disappear. Yeah.
My question was, what language are you memorizing the Quran?
In Arabic.
Yeah.
Arabic. The Quran is only memorized in Arabic.
So your children are using Arabic to memorize?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, we all know when we do studies of little children, that's like they just soak it up. What we call in Islam is a fitra, a natural ability when they're little. First we feel there's a natural ability for them to believe in Allah or believe in God, and then there's also a natural ability to easily soak up. Education is so easy for them if you make it fun, if you make it structured. It's easy. My daughter makes it almost competitive at times. I mean, sometimes I'm praying, and my strength in Arabic is not as strong as hers, and she's 8. And I may say something really just small off. Like, I'll give you an example. In the beginning surah, there's a letter, it's called Ain. And I say it as A, like A. If I pronounce this wrong, I'm telling you, in like less than 1 second, my daughter will correct me inside prayer. And she has to. She has to, because it's a mandatory portion of the prayer. So it's important. I think Dewey's been holding his hand up for a long time. Not to say that, so I do want to answer.
Yeah, please, Dewey, go ahead, Dewey.
You got to unmute yourself now. Don't forget.
Oh, yeah, Dewey, you're muted, buddy.
Dewey, you're muted. Can I unmute him? I think I can.
No, I can't either. He's got to do it.
You have to do it? Oh, that sucks. I thought you can unmute.
I thought I could too, but I don't seem to.
Yeah, it's not working.
Maybe, wait, I can unmute everybody, I think. No, I can't either.
Oh, no. Okay, well,
Well,
Dewey will come back. Type it in, Dewey.
Yeah.
Oh,
there
there.
he
got
is.
him.
Go ahead,
There you go.
Dewey.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're trying to negotiate with the Taliban. Who is the Taliban?
Oh, okay. So this is gonna be the first one. There's gonna be a lot of I don't knows. Okay, so I don't know the Taliban, but I will say, oh, Dewey was an engineer. He was a cat engineer.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Happy retirement, man. But Dewey, I don't know the Taliban, but now I will tell you, there are lots of misconceptions on who they are in the first place. But I'm not oblivious. We have extremists within Islam, right? We have extremist Muslims, right? We have individuals who go to the extreme and are not practicing Islam. Being a Muslim is different from actually what Islam is, okay? Being a Muslim is trying to practice Islam, right? Trying your best to practice Islam. And there's also Islam itself. So it's just like a criminal. A criminal is going to either break a law, right? Or not break a law. So we got some extremists that are breaking Islamic law, okay? But again, I don't know who the Taliban are. I don't, I really don't read into their stuff at all. So I couldn't really answer that for you. But I will not fool you and say that there's no extremists in Islam. There's extremists everywhere, right?
I think I'd like to ask a question related to that, and hopefully this doesn't make you uncomfortable.
No.
But a couple of people have asked in the chat, how do people know you're a Muslim? I mean, just by outward appearance, there's not anything stamped across your forehead that says, I'm Muslim or anything like that.
Right.
How would they know?
Well, okay. So from my standpoint, there's many things that maybe clue in. For example, I walk out of my house in a thobe. Yeah, I don't know if anyone's seen a thobe before. So people will probably assume that I'm Muslim at that point. This beard may be a sign of me being a Muslim. One way, if we're interacting with each other, and I say assalamu alaikum to someone, right? I greet someone with a salam, I may be a Muslim, because there are also non-Muslims that use that greeting as well, such as Christians, Arab. Also, Jewish people, they say assalamu alaikum, right? They say ashalom, right? So which is a derivative of assalamu alaikum in Arabic. So there's many ways. Maybe I just tell you, hey, I'm Muslim, right? Or I'm in the middle of work, right? At Caterpillar, they provide prayer rooms for all religions. And I say, hey, I need to go pray. And they know, they've been dealing with Muslims for a long time, and they know, oh, that guy's a Muslim, right? Sometimes you just need to ask. Maybe he looks like it. Hey, are you a Muslim? There's nothing wrong with asking. So,
so related to that then, for women, somebody had sent a question in via chat, or I'm sorry, email. It says, what is the purpose of the full burqa? I can understand the headscarf, and that's what made me think of this with Afghanistan. I can understand the headscarf, as many Christian and Jewish women my age, that maybe tells you who this might have been, can remember having to cover our heads in public and especially in church. But what is the point of the full body cover that allows only a slit for the eyes? It seems cruel to women, especially when it's hot out.
I can understand that. So there's many factors of this. Some of this, I'm going to get to a point when I answer this question. The rest of it is going to be, I don't know. Now, the first part is that within Islam, there's what they call a hijab. And hijabs are for men and women, okay? It's not a particular clothing. Hijab means covering, okay? Now, the covering that they're wearing is named hijab, like they've attributed it to what they're wearing. So for men, especially when they're praying, is that they have to have a certain portion of their body covered, right? And for women, there's supposed to be a certain portion of their body covered. The belief in Islam is that from a man's standpoint, there are certain things that are attractive from the opposite sex that shouldn't be seen. And from a woman's standpoint, there are certain things that are attractive to men that shouldn't be seen. And that if we talk about probabilities, and if everyone is honest in here, we know that men, from a standpoint, when they see a woman, with lack of clothing, they're attracted to that. There's no doubt about it. And it's more attraction on the men's side than on the women's side. There's just no doubt about that. I mean, there's so many statistical analysis that's been done by scientists, mathematicians, psychologists that have addressed this issue. And feel free to, again, read Iqra, right, about it. Now, when it comes to why we choose to cover on both men and men's side, it is a modest approach from Allah. First is a command that we must cover, right? It's one of the tenets of being a Muslim. Now, does everyone practice it? Not necessarily. It doesn't mean that you're not a Muslim anymore. It's just maybe you're not following that rule. And when you don't follow a rule, it's called sin. Just plain and simple. Now, for a sister, they are supposed to cover up to their hands and their feet and their hair, right? And they have an option. Now, some cultures will force it upon them, okay? Culture and Islam are completely different. To cover their face, which is the niqab, where they only see an eye. They have an option. And then also, the material that they're wearing, not all of them are hot. Some of them are actually cool, especially if they're wearing black. If you ask them, they'll tell you. Now, some, it's hot. There's no doubt about it. And it's a commandment from Allah. Now, the real question is, are they being forced to do it? Men and women. Majority of them now are not, nor should they be. No one in Islam, no one practicing Islam, no one within the law of Islam can force anyone to do anything. If in their culture the forcing is done, then that's against Islam. So a woman or a man putting on what is appropriate within Islam is their own right and their own choice. And there are rules to it, and there are rules they must follow. But after that, and why is it hot? It seems disingenuous. It seems unfair. We can get into the standpoint of if I look at Nicki Minaj and I compare what she's wearing to what a Muslim is wearing majority of the time, I have a wife. I'm jealous. I don't want anybody looking at my wife. I mean, you can talk to my wife. I'm not man or woman. I'm not Eric. But I don't want any man googling eyeing my wife. I wouldn't. And nor, I don't think any wife would want anyone Google eyeing their husband. But again, beyond that, I don't know. Okay. This is just the basis of basic stuff that I know.
Oh, very good though. Have you faced discrimination in the United States? And this is in the chat, but I'll tell everybody that he shared with me that he's sensed a bit of discrimination more for the color of his skin than the type of his faith.
Not a little bit, a lot more. Okay.
Black while driving, driving while black.
Yeah, many things. Yeah. But I take the approach when it comes to racism a little bit differently than most. I use that opportunity as an educational process instead of this person is horrible. I think individuals who may have these these learned attributes or learned characteristics can easily be unlearned if first that individual tries to get to know that individual, and then kind of keep things keep things simple. Kiss, keep it simple, stupid. When trying to approach them and make them understand at least your viewpoint. Not everyone will agree, but it doesn't mean that you can't get along with someone who disagrees with you. I have friends that despise Muslims, right? Hate Muslims, but they love me. And I always tell them that, this is a contradiction. You love me. You're telling me you love me. Not to say that you're being dishonest. We're friends, or at least we're acquaintances, and you despise every other Muslim, right? So it's interesting.
Have you felt a certain sense of acceptance here in the Peoria area?
Peoria is possibly one of the most, it is a godsend for me. There's a large Muslim community here that's really wonderful. Everybody I've interacted with outside of Islam, outside the Muslim community, has been wonderful to me. Have I had my hiccups here and there? Yeah, probably. But in comparison to where I lived in Chicago, south side of Chicago, I mean, I love Chicago. But I have 5 children. Safety is an issue for me. Even though I live on the south side of Chicago, I was in a pretty safe area of south side of Chicago. Not everywhere is wild in Chicago. But it's just like this. If I know something somewhere has a little bit of poison, are you going to drink the poison? Probably not. So somewhere has a little bit too much violence for me, and I have 5 children, I'm going to try to put them in a safer area if I can.
On a day like today, 9/11, the anniversary of 9/11,
Right.
is there any concern among your community, the Islamic Center? Do you worry about anything happening?
I will say, especially like, for example, today is Friday, right?
Yeah.
And there's Jummah prayer. It's mandatory for all men, unless, you know, of course, if they're traveling. There's certain conditions that it's not mandatory, but majority of the time it's mandatory for you. And I will say that we do get a little bit more security around that, around those times. And in larger cities, that things do happen. Especially on twofold. One, if the individual who may want to do something to the Muslims is not educated. And then 2, if we as Muslims don't go around to get to know everyone. There's a hadith from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that states that your neighbors are 40 to the north, 40 to the south, 40 to the west, and 40 to the east. And when he said 40, he didn't put a unit on it. He didn't say kilometers or miles. He meant your neighbors are everywhere, both Muslim and non-Muslim. And each one of them have a right upon you. You have a responsibility for you. For example, if I cook a meal in my house, you should cook a little bit more and maybe give it to your neighbor. For example, we had a Eid celebration, and I had to go slaughter a live animal. I cut some up, and we had some cut up, and I gave it to my neighbor. It's an opportunity for us to get to know each other. And unfortunately, we as Muslims and non-Muslims don't really do the best, especially with something as significant as 9/11. But I will tell you this, there are many, many other atrocities that have been done historically that are way larger than 9/11, and both to Muslims and non-Muslims. And we may not even remember them because of the significance of what happened on 9/11, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
And actually, some of those things are being done right now. So.
Atrocities in the name of religion always strike me as the ultimate in hypocrisy. So
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate.
Joni points out that there are, and I share her perspective, that there are many more similarities between Christianity and Islam than there are differences. And I'm not sure why she put Hakuna Matata, Joni, but we're good with that.
Well, you know me, Angela, you know me. It means let's get along. I don't get the big
it's
deal,
a wonderful day, right?
Yeah, I'm the kind that, you know, if Ted Bundy were alive, I would probably be trying to help him with his car problems. So, you know, it's just like, what's the big deal? I'm gratified, Sahid, that you are here with us today. I'm gratified to hear that our community is welcoming for the most part, because I think everybody who's sitting around this this table today, are really very, very pleased to see you, and we love you. So I'm going to say that.
Oh, love
Thanks,
you too.
Joan.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Yeah. I will say there was one question here. I don't want to jump the queue. This says I think it's from Janine. It says
that was my next one.
Oh, it was, okay. There obviously is a lot of misconceptions about Muslims being terrorists and wanting to take over the United States. Classes like this certainly help to change that. But do you feel there's something Muslim leaders could do more to counter these beliefs? I would I don't ever want to be offensive when answering this type of questions, but it's so baffling to me because, for example, I don't know what's everyone's favorite, like, for the women here, I don't know what's a favorite thing for women right now. I don't know, purses, diamonds. Let's say you had your favorite pair of boots, right? And you're saying you would do so much research in this, right? You would figure out, okay, how does it fit? Is this pump good? Does it have a good cushion? For men, let's say it's our favorite sport team, right? I'm a Cubs fan. I'm sure there's some Cardinals fans in here that are probably going to burn me to the ground right now. But I love the Cardinals too. I have respect for them. Anyone who wins championships, I have respect for, right? You'll do research. You'll know everyone, first baseman, second baseman, outfield, everything. But this question makes me believe that we as individuals really need to do a better job of doing what we used to do in the olden days. We would go to the library, right? We would take out that book. We'll look it up, right? Now we have everything online, right? If you go to YouTube alone and type in misconceptions about Islam, you're going to find like 100,000 Muslim leaders, sheikhs, people who've been studying this thing for years to be able to explain this to Muslims, non-Muslims, everything, every rainbow shape. Women sheikhs, there's women scholars, okay? I know there's a lot of women. There are women scholars. There have been women scholars since the Prophet's time. The first woman scholar, or one of the well-known women scholars, is the Prophet's wife, Aisha, radiyallahu anha, right? She's the one, like, for example, when it comes to some of a lot of the, what we call Sharia, right? Everybody, this is probably connected to this too. This is the Sharia means Islamic law, what we define ourselves by, day in and day out, from financial to education to everything, okay? A lot of it came from her. Her jurisprudence, her fiqh, her jurisprudence, that's what it means in Islam, came from her, from a woman. So I would tell everyone, and including myself, Google it. I'm telling you. And after you Google it, go to the Islamic Center of Peoria, go to the Islamic Foundation in Peoria, and ask. Ask. We have to be investigators. As people, we need to investigate more and stop listening to MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, Huffington Post, whatever we're reading. I mean, we can read there too, just to dissect, but we need to go out, talk to people, learn about each other, not just behind, this phone, our computer. It's killing us. And this is not even just being a Muslim. This is just being a human being, So I would advise everyone to really research. There are so many channels on YouTube about Islam. It's nuts. Anyway, yeah.
I think the core of the question is one that actually had been emailed to me as well. So it might have to be the last one because we're running out of time. But the core of the question is, and for me, when I read the question that was emailed to me as well, is, do you feel like people ask you, how come Muslims do terrorist activity? And that it should be your responsibility as a Muslim to explain this to the world.
Yeah, it should be my responsibility. It should. Yeah. And are you asking, do I feel it should? Yes, I do feel it should. But it also should be.
How come you don't speak out about it? I mean, how come you don't condemn those people?
We do day in and day.
Exactly.
Yeah. We do day in and day out. That's if you write condemn and Muslim, right, or Sheikh condemns 9/11, you're gonna find like 100,000, probably 1 million different Muslims, which are leaders, people who are everyday people. Myself, you got it right here. I condemn every extremist thing done to any innocent individual on the face of this planet. Okay, I'm a Muslim person right here saying it. Maybe I'll end on this, and let's talk about war in general. when it comes to war in Islam, one of the tenets of being in combat, because there's rules to be in combat, and when it comes to being a Muslim and defending oneself, there's nothing wrong with this, right? We don't believe in slap one cheek, you turn the other. We believe in defending. If you slap me, I'm going to defend myself, like anyone would, right? Most people, I don't know, most people here, I have a Ford card. You should have a Ford card too. You should be able to defend yourself, right? Now, in war, you cannot kill any innocent individual. A mother, a child, a father, old person. You can't even destroy a tree. You cannot destroy any religious house, a church, a synagogue, a Hindu temple. You cannot in Islam. This is against the law. This is actually one of the most haram, what we call haram is a bad sin. It's a huge sin. Allah will punish you for this. Okay? So, you tell me, you know, where any of these crazy people get their idea of doing anything. It means that they're not reading. They're not reading. They circled up recently, not recently, right after around 9/11. They've done this type of thing many times. There's extremists that gather young people, right, together to do their bidding. And they ask them, have you ever read the Quran and done any research about what your person is telling you to do? None of them, 0 of them, have ever picked up a book, nor do they even know how to read the Quran. This is research that's being done by non-Muslims, Muslims, about terrorism. So when it comes to should I say something, should I not say something, what are the rules and whatnot, Islam is very clear, and I encourage everyone to just read about it. Go and ask. And I mean, it starts here, right? This is the start of that, going and asking, which is good. So, someone asked about Nigeria. Oh, yeah. 1205. Oh, Lord have mercy. So many questions, so many answers about Nigeria. I love Nigeria.
I think, do you want to get into that, or do you want to schedule another time to talk about Nigeria?
I can go, I can go till 1 o'clock. Because the beauty of this is that I live 2 minutes away from the mosque. So I can hang up on you guys and go straight to the mosque for Jumu'ah. So, but I don't know if everyone else has time. I don't want to do something crazy.
I think we have to bring up Nigeria another time. Because we kind of hit an hour, but I think we are going to schedule that relatively soon. So okay, I will say this. Yes, open houses. Yes, masjids have open houses. I will send that that information to Mrs. Weck whenever we do this. Whenever we have them. Unfortunately, with this COVID, it sucks. But there are also online Zoom discussions with other clerics in the community, and you can feel free to join those and ask questions to the imam. These individuals, again, have been learning Islam since they're a baby, and they're still learning. Terrific. Well, everyone,
it's been wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. And as Sahid just pointed out, those who are ignorant are the most easily led astray. So read, ask questions, and that's what the World Affairs Council is all about. So on behalf of the Peoria Area World Affairs Council, thank you, Sahid. This was very informative and very a very nice introduction. Thank you for being so open to all of our questions.
I'm going to be honest with you. I owe each and every one of you a thank you. And I will say this, any mistake that I've made was me and Shaitan, and anything good that was said today was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I love all of you guys. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
You're a dear. Thank you.